Well, hello,
Hi,
Aylar Mirzazadeh. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you now?
I'm in Sweden this
Okay.
week.
What are you doing in Sweden?
I'm just here working on this singer Mabel's album.
I see.
Yeah, we're in this massive house and we've got a studio set up and we're just doing sessions every day. And yeah, we've got like
Excellent.
6 songs down and we wrote 5 more this week. So yeah, I
Five
think
more
it
to
will come
go.
out next
Yeah.
next next year.
So I was listening to your new song about Iran and Iranian women. Tell us about this song and tell us why did you write this song? What motivated you to do this?
When I wrote this song, I was actually in LA doing sessions, and I was writing with Mona, who is a female producer, and she's also Iranian. And this was during the time when Mahsa Amini was killed, and which was a very emotional time, obviously, because it brings up so many other similar situations. And I just really wanted to write a song to honor not only her, but also just Iranian women and like seeing the ancestral trauma that's been passed on, like things I see in my mom and things I see in my mom's sisters and her mom and just Iranian people around me and in general. And I just felt like when that happened, I really wanted to
You had to
just
do
run.
something. You
Yeah,
wanted to do something.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially because I was with a female Iranian producer and the song, I just told her, look, I want to write this song, and the song was written in like 20 minutes. It just came out.
All right, just 20 minutes. Excellent.
Yeah,
So that was in 2022 or 2023.
2023,
She
I
was
think.
killed, yeah, she was killed in 20 September 2022, and then I
I
guess
did it in February.
you did it in February, yeah,
Yeah,
because the protests were still going on
yeah.
at that time. So before going further about the song, tell us a little bit about yourself. When did your family move to the UK? And tell us a little bit about your musical background.
Yes, so I was born in the Netherlands. So my family moved in
Nice.
1993, a month before I was born. So my mom was 8 months pregnant. They moved to the Netherlands and I was born there, grew up there in a really, really small town where only 5,000 people lived. So I'm not from a musical town or like a creative town. I was brought up in a really small village and I always knew I wanted to do music and I always knew I wanted to do like big things. I just didn't know how, when, and with who. But I had that belief, like I knew I didn't worry about it. And then during my childhood, I wrote a lot of poetry, wrote songs. I also, funnily enough, dissected and analyzed a lot of pop songs when I was little. Um, and I knew every song on the radio. And then, yeah, I went to school and eventually I just started because I didn't know anyone and I had no connections. I just thought, okay, I'm gonna do The Voice of Holland because I don't know how else to get connected with like the music industry. So I did that
So
and I
you
ended up,
grew up in Holland. I thought that you
yeah,
grew up in the UK. So you grew up in Holland
yeah,
and then you had a passion for music and
yes,
poetry and you worked hard on it and you wrote poetry and music at school. That's something very important because I'm much older than you, but when I see younger people and when I see the way that they want to become famous, they want to become famous overnight, and they see people like you on social media with hundreds of thousands of YouTube likes and hundreds of thousands of followers, and they think they can do it very quickly.
mm,
But you are saying that when you have a passion, when you want to do something, you have to work hard on it. You have to go out of your way to stay up maybe at night to write music, to write
yeah,
poetry. And then you applied for The Voice, which is a musical competition in Holland. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. And yeah, you're right because you have to put your 10,000 hours in and this is not an overnight thing. This is the long haul. Like it takes so many no's, so much rejection, so much of I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where I'm going, nothing is happening. That there's years of that before anything even happens. But when you love music and when you're passionate about building something, you don't really care how long it takes. You just keep going. So I always had that attitude. I didn't really, even though I just knew that it was going to take a long time, and I knew I was going to put my energy into this, and I was just really confident that something was going to happen at some point. And I that's also how I negotiated with my parents because I was meant to study law and I was meant to, like coming from an Iranian household, there's a lot of pressure to like study and do something, have a good job and this and that because obviously our parents sacrificed so much to go to another country where you do have bigger opportunities than what they had.
They
So I
want you to
always,
be doctor, mohandes,
yeah,
doctor,
engineer,
engineer, etc.
dentist, yeah. So, and I understand because my parents sacrificed everything to, and also they didn't have the opportunities that me and my brother had. So I I understood that. But I told my parents, I said, look, give me after high school, I said, give me 2 years because the plan was for me to go to university. And I said, I don't want to go to university, but give me 2 years. In 2 years, I'll be able to show you that I'm serious and I can make a career. I'm not going to break as an artist in 2 years. I'm not going to become famous in 2 years because it takes much longer than that. But I'll be able to show you that there's a serious career. And if not, then I'll go to university. But just give me those 2 years. And they were like, okay, that sounds fair. Like, that sounds good. And in those 2 years, that's when I went to London, actually. I started going to London without knowing anyone, without any money. And I just started going back and forth. And actually, my mom the other day, she said, how did you even, what did you do for the first few years in London? Because, you didn't have any money and weren't making any money. Like I started making money after 5 years of being broke. And I was like, oh, I just ate soup for dinner and I didn't spend anything. And I was couch surfing and staying with friends and like, and she was kind of like she had a tear in her eye and she was like, why didn't you say anything? Like we would have tried to help you. And I said, because if I told you, then you would have convinced me to come home and not go through all of that trouble. So I just kept a brave face because I knew my parents would be like, why are you doing all of that for? Like, just come home. So I,
Right. From what you're telling me also, it seems that fame was something that you thought that would happen as a result of your music. You did not start music or your musical career because you wanted to become famous. You were passionate about music, you were passionate about poetry, and with that, if you're
yeah.
successful, you become famous as well. That
Well,
again, I think a lot of young people, they think about it the other way around, that they want to be famous. And then they say, okay, how can we become famous? Become an influencer or become, a singer
yeah.
or a writer, whatever, not a writer,
Yeah.
of course, but a singer or an actor. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I moved to London and I met my manager, I said that I actually didn't want, I just wanted to write songs. I didn't want to be an artist. Um, because when I started writing songs and I figured out along the way, like after The Voice, I figured out that, oh, you can be a songwriter, you can have a songwriting career. And then I kind of changed my mind about being an artist and I quickly realized that I just want to be in the studio and write songs and like becoming famous was never something that attracted me or like that wasn't really my objective. I just wanted to be in the studio. And also I started working with artists and kind of seeing everything else that you have to do and everything that comes with fame. I didn't personally think it was worth it. So actually years I
Sorry, let's go
spent.
back to your voice. What happened when you applied for the voice in Holland?
So when I did The Voice, I ended up in the semifinals
Also,
And
you managed to go through the auditions for The Voice and you
yeah,
were on The Voice. Okay.
yeah, I was on The Voice. Yeah, I was on The Voice, and after The Voice finished, I knew that I had an opportunity now to connect. I could like email people, so I just started
Mm.
Googling the email addresses from A&Rs and companies, and just to like meet people. And so I emailed loads of people in the Dutch music industry, and then I just ended up. Someone told me about another writer, another songwriter, and said, "Oh, you should work with this guy." So I started working with another writer who I was just writing a lot of songs with, and then our songs started being placed with other artists and stuff. And then I realized, oh, I could have a songwriting career, and that felt really good. That felt like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Mm.
So I did that for a year in the Netherlands. And then after a year of doing that, most of the songs ended up being a lot of dance songs because obviously we had in the Netherlands we have a lot of DJs that are successful internationally. So I ended up doing a lot of dance songs. And after a year of that, I was kind of like, I want to write pop songs. And then I thought, okay, where can I go? And then obviously LA popped in my mind, but then I thought that's way too far. Like I can't be that far away from my family. So the next best thing I thought was London. So I remember telling my parents, I was like, I want to go to London. And I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm very impulsive. And then my dad, I remember he was like, "You're going to London." I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to London." He was like, what are you going to do in London? You don't know anyone in London and you don't have any money and London is very expensive. What are you going to do there?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'm going to go to London. Like, watch me." And then in that time, I was talking to a few managers, and everyone was really nice. But then through the songs I wrote, I found another Dutch producer who was based in London. And I just tweeted him and I said, "Look, I have a couple of songs. I really want to work with you. I'm Dutch, but I want to come to London." And he was like, "Okay, well, send me some songs." So I sent him a couple of songs and he was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like, let's do a session." So I went to London. I did two sessions with him, and the songs ended up with his manager. And his manager at the time was like, "Oh, like who is Eilar? Like we don't have time. Like I'm already canceling sessions that because we don't have time. Like who is this person?" And the producer was like trust me, like this is really good. And then he listened to the songs and he was really impressed. And then he called me. And because this was during a time when I was talking to other managers, I spoke to him on the phone for 5 minutes and I was like, this is the guy I want to work with. Um, and so that's how
Can
I
I just
started.
stop you here? How important is to have a good manager in music industry, especially as a songwriter or an artist?
I think I did a lot of work without a manager, because I think it's important to have a good team, but it's more important to pick someone who you know you're going to work long term with, because I think like me and my manager we've been working together since that phone call, and this was like 10 years ago. And you hear a lot of like in the industry a lot of people change management, and that's very normal because it's hard to find someone who you can work with long term. Like it's hard to pick that person, especially because you know there are a lot of good people, but it's hard to find them who have like the best intention. And I was just lucky at the time that I was very intuitive and I just instantly felt this is the guy I want to work with. And it ended up being a good decision. But I think it's important eventually to pick a right team, but you can't just expect to pick your team when you haven't done the work yet. So I feel like I built my portfolio in the beginning where I had enough songs and I had enough things to show someone like this is what I want to do. Like, are you with me or not? And from that moment, I think it's important to have a good team around you. But
So
it take
with the benefit of hindsight, what do you think are the good qualities of a good managers? What are the qualities of a good manager?
I think it depends on what you want. Like for me like it's different for everyone, but for me personally, I want to have a relationship with my manager where it feels like family and it feels like it's not just business. So my manager one thing I really celebrate in him is that he first and foremost cares about my well-being and the songs, and then the business. And I feel like the balance is really good, and like he would never put me in a position um where if it costs my well-being, he would never put me in a position like that. And I think that's a very long-term view, instead of like going for the quick thing and the quick fixes. Like he thinks long term because we have built that trust over time, and we've gone through ups and downs together. And we know that like I have a responsibility, he has a responsibility, and when things don't go well, you don't blame other people. You look like it's about working it out together. And I think have that when you go through the lows as well, you build trust over time. And I think that's really important to be able to trust each other.
And again, with the benefit of hindsight, what should be the warning signs for a young artist, especially a young woman who wants to become a songwriter or an artist,
Yeah,
and manager or whoever in the music business?
I think one thing to look out for is if the manager or the team, the people around you, if they are making decisions based on a quick buck. So if the negotiation deal, if there's a deal on the table, for example, with a publisher or a label, and there's money involved, if the manager is only thinking about getting that money quick, that's a warning sign. Obviously, some managers who are young, of course, they have to pay the bills as well. So I understand. But at the same time, I think my manager was never someone who was going after the deals quickly. Like the deal, of course, we want to make money, but the deal has to be right. And the negotiate like if the deal isn't right, you have to be willing to leave the deal. And that means sometimes leaving money behind, and I think it's a red flag when managers are only thinking about let's sign this deal, so that he can get his commission,
Okay, great.
or she.
Yeah, of course. So tell us about what happened after you found the manager and you started to become a professional songwriter.
So me and my manager were on the same page from the beginning. I started writing songs, and I was just in the studio Monday to Sunday. So he would put me in some sessions, but then also I would organize sessions myself. So from the beginning, I was always, because I came from a small town and I didn't know anyone, and I've sort of, um, I kind of put myself in these situations. I feel like I never stopped doing that, even when I met my manager who was also organizing things. So with him doing that, with me doing that, my week was just always full, Monday to Sunday. And I just knew that, okay, I'm gonna write so many songs, and I know that I have a lot of like I knew that the songs I was writing, I was at the beginning of my career, and I knew I had to work on my craft, and I knew that I'm not gonna write a song today that's gonna change my life tomorrow. Like I knew that it was gonna take thousands of songs before something would happen, and I was okay with that. And then you start building connections in London. I just started getting into rooms with people who, you know, were artists who were releasing these songs. And like slowly you kind of build your connections, and I just said yes to everything. There was no for me. I did everything. I did double sessions during the week. So I would do a session from like 12 till 6 or 7, and then I would go to another session from like 8 till like 1.
And
And
it's
I just
interesting, sorry, and it's interesting that you use the word craft because a lot of people who listen to um, pop music, they think that, this just happens, that there's no craft. But you have to work on it. You have to work on the lyrics, you have to work on the music. Can you tell us a little bit about the craft of songwriting, especially in pop music? I'm really
yeah.
interested in like the craft of songwriting. I mean, I listen to people like Leonard Cohen or Bob Dylan who are like real master craftspeople. And, tell us about the craft of songwriting, especially in terms of pop music.
Yeah, I think pop music and songwriting in pop music is like it is a craft. And I knew when I first moved to London, because I'm from the Netherlands, I knew that I had a lot of work to do. And I knew that I was surrounded by really talented people. And also there are so many scenes in London and there's so much great music in London. For me, I just knew that my songs weren't good enough. I knew that I had something, but I knew that it wasn't good enough. And I was just determined to, like, my mindset around doing sessions wasn't that I'm doing these sessions hoping that the song that I write today is going to become the song that makes me successful. I just thought I'm going to write as many songs as possible because every song will make me better. Every song is important. Like even if nothing happens with the song I wrote yesterday, it's still the song that I'm writing today I needed the song for yesterday to write the song today and the song tomorrow and the next song and the next song. And I feel like my mindset around songwriting is that um I just I just I think it's important to not settle for anything that feels okay. And that is obviously like the bar now is much higher than when I first moved to London, but I just think always striving for writing the better song, like a better song tomorrow than I wrote today. That was always my mindset. And then I think if that's your mindset, you gradually do write better songs. And that doesn't mean that every song I wrote was amazing. I've written so many bad songs as well. Not every song is going to be amazing, and you just don't know what kind of day you're going to get. But I think for me, like I'm always more in competition with myself rather than what's happening around me. And I think that's quite a healthy mindset because I definitely went through a stage where I was comparing myself to you know, other songwriters and other artists in the industry. And I think when I'm in competition with myself, it's just more fun and it's like you just keep pushing yourself.
Who are some of your icons, role models that you look up to?
Um, I mean, I grew up listening to my music taste, what I grew up was is so random and it goes so like from left to right. But I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop and R&B. And like I was a big Tupac fan because my brother was a Tupac fan and he was 8 years older. So always wanted to impress him. So I think like storytelling is a big part of like Tupac's music. And then when I moved to London, I started getting into more bands and indie and alternative music, rock music. I think people I look up to or people I take inspiration from, so many people. I mean, honestly, Phoebe Bridgers actually inspired Daughter. So she really inspired me for that song, but also um, Kurt Cobain in terms of storytelling, um, Michael Jackson in terms of st structuring a song, and like Quincy Jones in terms of like building a song.
Mhm.
Um, Pharrell in terms of sounds and like it's not I don't think I really have like one or two people. It's just like there is so much to take
You have different
inspiration from.
references and
Yeah.
inspiration, sources of inspiration. What about Iranian songs? What kind of music your parents listened to, and how did that influence you?
So when I was little, I was obsessed with Sultana Qalba with Leila Furuhat.
Who
And
is
I was Yeah, I know, right? And I was a massive fan for years. And also I went through a stage where I was a massive Ebi fan. My parents listened to like growing up in our household because my parents were quite young And when they moved to the Netherlands, they found a lot of other Iranian people in the, in the refugee camps. So we would have parties every weekend and like dance and sing and um but my mom, like, we listened to a lot of Gugush, Mansoor, also a lot of oh, what is that? The woman with a really beautiful voice with the sad music, like really strong, powerful voice.
Heide?
Heide, yeah.
Mm.
Um, and but my mom is also Azeri, so we also listen to a lot of Turkish songs and Azeri music. Um, yeah, who else? Faramars.
Aslani,
Yeah.
yeah, who died recently. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, really
Yeah.
sad. Yeah.
And so when you were listening to the song about Iranian women, and when you were writing the song about Iranian women, did you think about any of the Iranian music that you listened to? What was the inspiration for that song, if you can talk
Well,
about that process?
yeah, for that song, it was such an internal emotion, like purging almost, that there wasn't much like intellectual about that song other than um just this emotion like wanting to come out. I did find a voice note from my mom, who she sent me a voice note on my birthday, which I really wanted to incorporate in the music, which is her speaking Farsi and actually talking, like what she's saying in that voice note is thanking God for not just me, but also my voice. And I just thought that was such a nice thing to include in the music. I didn't necessarily think about like Iranian music or wanting to incorporate anything into it, like in the sound world, because this was more like a feeling and more like an emotion wanting to come out. So I didn't actually, there wasn't much thinking around this song. So we wrote the song really quickly um and then built the song really quickly as well.
And what you like to happen when you release this song, and how do you like people to be inspired or take away from the song?
The whole inspiration, like lyrically, was I wanted to talk about the pressure of being a woman, especially being an Iranian woman, because that is a whole different meaning. Um, and I thought, okay, like the whole angry approach doesn't work because when you're just shouting something, that's why I say I shouted and I screamed. Like I've tried that, like being angry about it and shouting about it, but actually if you are trying to express a thought and you want to make people understand what it is that you're trying to express, when you're doing it in an angry way, people don't actually hear what you're trying to say. So I just thought, okay, I've tried that. That doesn't work. So let me put it this way. I hope maybe as a man, if you have a daughter, then maybe that might change your point of view, or maybe that might change, you know, how like maybe that will make you think about what it is to be a woman and what it is to be an Iranian woman. And I think, I mean, being an Iranian woman, that's never like if you're not Iranian, I think it's hard to understand the other pressures that come with that. But at least this way, I just felt like it's just a more loving and a more like uh peaceful way of like, here, I'm inviting you to think about this.
Mm. There is one line in your notes that says, "She takes like a whore. That's the wool that you don't want to lose. But I'm a
Hmm.
daughter too." What do you mean by
Yes.
that?
So kind of like, it's kind of like It's really hard to explain, but it's like the things that, for example, in music industry, like a lot of women when they become famous, like you see a lot more women whose bodies are sexualized than men. And that is just something that is quite normal. Like we don't really, that's not really like weird. And that is something that we accept and that we normalize. And it's things like that. It's like she takes like a whore, like she she she's living in this world that you set the terms for, and she is just taking it because that's how you want it to be. Like you
She's a
don't want,
commodity.
yeah, you don't want that world to change, but I am a daughter too. Like, so it's kind of like the patriarchal world that you don't want to change because it's more comfortable for you and it's normal. It's like you don't want it to change because that's the world that we're all used to, and that's the world that yeah, that we live in. But so that's why she takes it because we're all meant to just accept that.
And do you think that this song is somehow a sign of maturity, that you've become more mature in terms of both your personal life and your songwriting?
Absolutely. I feel like the my first EP I came out 2 years ago, and I feel like since then, so I'm working on my album now, which is almost finished, and Daughter is a part of that album. It's actually the first single of the album. And this album is much more mature. It's much more um internalized. It's much more about how I see the world, and and I feel like comparing the songs that I've written now to the songs that on my EP, it's like I can totally see who I was then, and I can totally see how far I've come as a person and my thought process, and I think I really love, I think what's really great about writing songs is that you write songs at certain points of your life, and it's almost like a timestamp of how who you were then. And kind of like I can listen to that first EP and totally remember how I thought then and who I was then and how I dealt with heartbreak and all of that stuff. And now I'm writing this music, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the songs I'm gonna write because it's gonna forever, like I'm always gonna hopefully grow, and the songs will be proof of who I was at those moments.
Excellent. And we're going to translate this interview into Persian. Do you want to say a few words in Persian to our Iranian audiences?
Sure. Um,
یه هر صحبتی داری با مخاطبای ایران وایر به فارسی بگو، به خصوص
چشم.
پسرا و دخترای جوون که میخوان توی کار موسیقی وارد بشن و
Mhm.
بعد تو ایران باشن، شاید خارج از کشور باشن، چه پیامی داری، فکر میکنی که چی کار باید بکنن؟
Mhm. اوکی، چشم، حتما. سلام بچه ها، من آیلار هستم. ام، امیدوارم که همه بچه های دخترها و پسرای ایرانی موفق باشن، چون من فکر کنم ما ایرانی ها خیلی we have so much potential چی میشه به فارسی؟
قابلیت.
خیلی من فکر کنم ما خیلی قابلیت داریم، فقط ام، باید همه انرژیمون رو بذاریم تو اون چیزی که فکر میکنیم میخوایم انجام بدیم. حالا چه موزیک باشه، میتونه شعر نویسن میتونه باشه، یا هر چی که باشه. هر کاری که میخواین انجام بدین، مهمه که 100% از انرژیمون رو بذاریم روش، کار کنیم روش، چون من فکر کنم ما خیلی خیلی میتونیم موفق باشیم و واقعا این آرزو رو دارم برای جوانای ایرانی.
و چیزی که درباره صحبت کردیم تو این مصاحبه اینه که باید وقت بذارن، باید انرژی بذارن روی کار، باید کار کنن و موسیقی یا هر کار دیگه ای که حالا شاید به شهرت بیانجامه یا نه انجامه، نباید ساده بگیرنش و به
بله
قول معروف یک شبه نخوان راه 100 ساله رو برن و
بله بله، چون خیلی طول میکشه. بعدش هم من فکر کنم اگر واقعا یه چیزی رو دوست داری و اگر واقعا مثلا برای من موزیک یه چیزی هست که تو دلم هست. حالا چه اگر معروف بشم نشم برای من فرقی نمیکنه. من باید آهنگ بسازم، من باید شعر بنویسم. و وقتی آدم این حسو داره فرق نمیکنه که پدر مادر بگن نه یا مثلا بگن نمیتونی نمیتونی نمیتونی، چون این یه چیزی که هستش که آدم نمیتونه نکنه.
خب آیلار جان خیلی ممنون. Thank you so much آیلار. It was
Thank
great
you.
talking to
خیلی
you.
خوشحال شدم.
When is
مرسی.
the new album coming out and when is the single will be released?
So the single is released today,
Oh, okay.
on my mom's birthday, actually.
Oh wow, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, the song is out. The album will come out probably mid next year. I'm still finishing it. The songs are finished, but some finishing touches. So I'm gonna announce it in the new year. When exactly, but it will be like in the middle of next year.
In the middle of next year. So the song is out
Yeah, the song is out
today.
now.
Oh, okay, I
Yes.
didn't know
Yeah.
that. All right,
Yeah.
excellent. And
And also the visual on YouTube. I made a visual with home footage from my mom from the 90s, which is really beautiful. And it's, I think, as an Iranian person, you'll probably recognize because there's a lot of like familiarity in like the Iranian household. And yeah.
excellent. We make sure to include that in this interview. And of
Thank
course,
you.
with the other songs from your career as well. Thank you so much.